microphone to address the Assembly.
بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم صلى الله على النبي الكريم.
In the name of God, the most gracious, the most merciful, may the peace and blessings of God be upon the most noble of prophets. Mr. President, Your Majesties, Excellencies and Highnesses, Mr. Secretary General of the United Nations, ladies and gentlemen. I would like to begin by extending my warmest congratulations to His Excellency Mr. Philemon Young on his presidency of the 79th session of the United Nations General Assembly, wishing him every success at the head of the General Assembly. I would also like to congratulate His Excellency Mr. Denis Francis on his great wisdom in managing the work of the 78th session of the General Assembly. Allow me also to express my great appreciation for the efforts made by Mr. Antonio Guterres, the Secretary General of the United Nations, to develop our organization and to enhance its role as an effective institutional expression of our collective will to address the various challenges facing our world on the path of comprehensive sustainable development. Your Majesties, Excellencies, Highnesses, ladies and gentlemen, the theme of this session, leaving no one behind, acting together for the advancement of peace, sustainable development and human dignity for present and future generations, powerfully and clearly encapsulates the goals and objectives of the Charter of the United Nations and at the same time translates the depth of our collective awareness of the need to enhance our cooperation and coordinate our efforts to address the existing challenges. What the world has been through and what it is currently going through in terms of violent crises and unprecedented shocks at every level has greatly weakened our individual and collective ability to fulfill our common commitments in the context of the 2030 Agenda. The current international situation is having a very negative impact on efforts to achieve sustainable development, especially on the African continent, which already suffers from structural and circumstantial imbalances and obstacles that hinder its development efforts and slow down its progress towards achieving the 2030 Agenda of the United Nations and the 2063 Agenda of the African Union. Our continent continues to suffer from poverty, vulnerability, unemployment, weak health and education systems in terms of quality and inclusiveness, not to mention the spread of terrorism, armed conflicts, and the devastating effects of climate change. This bleak outlook in Africa very strongly confirms the urgent need to alleviate the enormous debt burden of African countries and correct the obvious imbalances in the development assistance system and in international governance, both political and financial, and to strengthen multilateral cooperation in general. This could bring the continent towards economic growth in a way that doubles the effectiveness or to redouble efforts to fulfill the commitments made by countries vis-à-vis the 2030 Agenda and the international community. In the Islamic Republic of Mauritania, and in accordance with its commitments, we have made achieving the Sustainable Development Goals a central objective towards which all of our public policies converge. We have been able to improve many of the Sustainable Development Goal indicators, and that is reflected in our improved ranking among countries in the United Nations Report on Sustainable Development 2024. This improvement is the result of intensive efforts aimed at enshrining the rule of law, strong institutions promoting democracy and individual and collective freedoms, the use of dialogue and consultation as a permanent method for managing public affairs, support for the independence of the judiciary, transparency, combating corruption and bribery in administrative or financial terms. Our continuous efforts to protect and promote human rights as well take the form of our fight against the remnants of modern slavery, human trafficking, protecting the rights of women and children, combating irregular migration and cross-border crime. In addition, we have been able to achieve security and stability despite the prevailing situation in our region and internationally. Indeed, violence and terrorism are reigning, as well as political and social crises, but through the help of God and with our national integrated security strategy, we have been able to achieve this. Likewise, we have given great attention to the role of young people in the advancement of countries and advancing growth. We are focusing on developing plans and strategies that guarantee that young people have education qualifications, are integrated into active life, and strengthening their presence in various areas of public life. All of the above has played a positive role in consolidating our national unity and strengthening our social cohesion. To do this, we have made intense efforts to eliminate various forms of exclusion, injustice, and vulnerability. To do this, we have built a social safety, a vast and varied social safety net that aims to alleviate the burden of the constraints and hazards of daily life on the poorest and to enhance their ability to withstand these vicissitudes and to access all public services. We have also launched a promising reform process for our education system in the aim of establishing a Republican school that embodies the values of equality and fairness and that guarantees that everyone in the same conditions can have high-quality education that will be a lever for social advancement. In parallel, we have redoubled our efforts to expand and improve the scope of health services that we offer to our population and to ensure access to medicines. We have created a health insurance system for citizens not covered by traditional insurance programs. In addition, we are providing some basic medical services free of charge, especially for mothers, older persons, and persons with disabilities. We are aware of the negative repercussions of climate change and environmental challenges in general on our planet, the economy, society, and political and security implications, particularly in the African continent and the Sahel in particular. We have worked to reduce our carbon emissions by 11% and to raise the share of renewable energy in our total energy mix to 50% by 2030. We intend to redouble our efforts in this area to adopt a green hydrogen development program. In addition to our efforts to promote clean energy, which today covers 48% of our energy use, we are continuing our fight against desertification in the context of the Great Green Wall and the Joint Committee to combat the effects of desertification in the Sahel. In this context, I would like to applaud the outcomes of COP28, which was hosted by the United Arab Emirates at the end of last year. I would like to hope that these environmental gains will be strengthened during the upcoming session, which will be hosted by Azerbaijan this year. We are hopeful that industrialized countries will respect their commitments to reduce their emissions and fulfill their pledges from the Paris Summit. Majesties, Excellencies, Highnesses, ladies and gentlemen. We are deeply convinced in the Islamic Republic of Mauritania We are deeply convinced in the Islamic Republic of Mauritania that the effectiveness of cooperation between states depends on relationships based on friendship, trust, and mutual respect. Therefore, our foreign policy is based on non-interference in the internal affairs of states, strengthening cooperation and friendship, the maintenance of international peace and security, and supporting just causes based on international law, the Charter of the United Nations, the African Union, the League of Arab States, and the Organization of Islamic Cooperation. For that reason, we would like to reiterate the following. Our strong condemnation of the war of genocide practiced by Israel against the defenseless Palestinian people in flagrant violation of international law and international humanitarian law. We demand the immediate end of this war, and we reiterate our commitment to the right of the Palestinian people to dignity and sovereignty within the framework of an independent state with East Jerusalem as its capital, as provided for in the Arab Peace Initiative and relevant international resolutions. Our condemnation of the current Israeli attacks on Lebanon, and our demand that they end immediately. Our call to find a solution that preserves the unity and sovereignty of the Libyan state, and our commitment to supporting African efforts and international efforts in this regard. Our support for the security and stability of brotherly Sudan and its sovereignty and territorial integrity, as well as our call to ensure that dialogue and reason prevail to resolve the outstanding issues leading to an immediate end to the war, ending the humanitarian suffering of the brotherly Sudanese people, and ensuring respect for international humanitarian law. Our commitment to serious efforts to achieve a political solution that preserves the unity of the Syrian Arab Republic, its independence, the dignity of its people, and their right to live in peace and security. Our support for the brotherly Yemeni people and our call for peaceful solutions in accordance with Arab initiatives and the relevant international resolutions, our firm position on the conflict in Western Sahara, and our support for the efforts of the United Nations and all relevant Security Council resolutions aimed at finding a lasting solution that is acceptable for everyone. Our concern about the continuation of the Russian-Ukrainian war and our demand that a solution be found that ends the war and takes into account the concerns of both parties in accordance with international law and the United Nations Charter, thus sparing the region and the world further tragedy and destruction. Your Majesties, Highnesses, and Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen, the Summit of the Future, which concluded its work yesterday, revealed how aware we are of our collective responsibility towards our common future. Through what was adopted in terms of measures and plans, the summit confirmed that we are still able to make this future one of security, peace, prosperity, comprehensive sustainable development that will not exclude any people or country. Let us therefore strengthen mutual trust, intensify our multilateral cooperation, and accelerate the reform of international political and financial governance rules so that they are more just, more balanced, and more equitable. And then, God willing, we will be able to save our planet from perdition and secure a bright future for current and future generations. Thank you.
On behalf of the Assembly, I wish to thank the President of the Islamic Republic of Mauritania,